order the meeting of the Old Bridge Township Planning Board for June 12th. Everybody stand and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Planning Board has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of the meeting by one properly posting any municipal contract and announcement given the time, date, location, and agenda of this meeting, mailing such announcement to the Home News Tribune, and filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk. Mr. Lauer?
Here.
Mr. Nomakis?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Lenning?
Here.
Mr. Marucci?
Here.
Mr. Pink? Here. Mr. Luca? Here. Chairman Cannon?
Here.
Ms. Carey?
Here.
Ms. Drum? Here. Mr. Dargy?
Present.
Mr. Hart? He's here. Somewhere.
He just stepped down.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the minutes of May 1st, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Pink. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Luca?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Minutes for May 15th, 2018. Have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt. Second? Seconded by Mr. Lanning. Roll call, please.
Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Luca?
Yes. Okay. Resolutions 47-17P, Woodhaven Village, Section 2, Phase 4. We have a motion?
This was a motion to approve the amended subdivision. They're redistricting where different, some of the buildings that were previously approved are going. It's one of two, the other's going to pick up the ones that they moved around.
Okay, moved by Mr. Marucci, second.
I'll second.
And seconded by, who, Mr. Lauer? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Luca?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Application 08-18P, 1225 Route 9, Realty, JAB Automotive.
And this was the application for basically adding additional parking spaces since they're having a successful business. There is one change to the resolution. They state that 1225 Route 9 is the owner and the applicant is JAB Automotive. So we're going to take out the doing business as part.
Okay, motion, please.
I'll motion.
Moved by Mr. Lauer, second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Pink. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
And Mr. Luca?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to remind everybody that we're being televised, and the TV will be going off at 10, even though the meeting may not be completed at that time. So we have a completeness waiver for 14-18P, Sign Brothers LLC for a completeness waiver.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kenneth Pape of the firm Heilbrunn Pape on behalf of Sign Brothers. This is an application for a 3,000 square foot storage building. It would be associated with an existing 10,000 square foot sign manufacturer off of Cheesequake Road. The three checklist waiver requests made by the applicant are community impact statement, stormwater management, and the traffic report. The reasons for same are summarized very efficiently in Nicole Shapiro's memo to the board of May 31. She notes that there'll be no new employees, no new utilities, that there'll be no new traffic. It is simply a storage building for materials that are currently stored on the grounds, materials that are used in the installation of large signs. So we intend to come before you and present the application more fully, but we're asking this evening if you would consider granting those three checklist items so that we could proceed.
Okay, does anyone from the board have any questions or comments?
Nicole's report is in your packet, and Mr. Pape did adequately identify her recommendations is that we grant the 3 waivers.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Lauer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lauer? Yes. Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Rucci? Mr. Pink? Mr. Luca?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good
see ya.
night.
Okay, we have completeness waiver of 15-18P, OB Investments LLC, completeness waiver.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. David Himmelman for OB Investments LLC, and I'm here tonight before also on a waiver request for environmental impact and also for the profiles of streets adjoining the project. As to the waiver request, I believe there's a memo from Nicole Shapiro, also dated June 12th, in which she articulates the reasons for her recommendation for these waivers. In essence, on the environmental impact request waiver, there's been extensive remediation on the site. There was a phase 1 and phase 2 done, site investigation, remedial investigation, and an RAO issued by an LSRP giving final approval, if you will, for the remediation. There were some areas of the site that were contaminated with soil. They were all properly removed, disposed of, and final clearance was issued by the LSRP. We also have addressed in other aspects of the application, you know, any impacts to streams. There aren't any. There's no wetlands on the site. There's no other environmental impacts. We've addressed, you know, any potential impacts for stormwater. So my client believes, the applicant believes that there's a basis for that waiver. With regard to the profiles of Wall Street adjoining the project, my understanding is because of the construction on Texas Road, it's very difficult to provide that information at this point. And Ms. Shapiro confirms that. As a matter of fact, she says there's been numerous revisions to the improvements at the intersection of Texas Road and Marlborough, and hence where the applicant's requesting that waiver. So based on that, I would ask that these 2 items be deemed waived and the application be deemed complete. Thank you.
Okay,
And again, the memo from Nicole should be in your papers, and he does adequately report what she's said recommending the waivers.
anybody have any questions or comments? Do we open it to the public? No. Mr. Ida. Okay, do I have a motion to grant the completeness waiver?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second? No, by Mr. Marucci. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abad?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Luca?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Okay,
night.
thank
See you
you.
soon. Stay well.
Okay, application 11-18P, Woodhaven Village Phase 3 has asked for a continuance to be continued to July 10th, 2018 without further notice. Do we have room for them on our agenda? Okay, does anybody have, do we have a motion to grant the continuance? Mr. Marucci?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Pink. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abad?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning? Yes. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Pink? Mr. Luca?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. So if anyone's here for Woodhaven Village Phase 3, come back on the 10th of July. Application 06-18P, DMK Development is also requesting to be continued to July 10th, 2018 without further notice. We have room for them also? Anybody, do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Luca. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abad?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pink? Mr. Luca?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Again, if anyone's here for that application, you can come back on the 10th. Okay, application 37-17 PA-F American Plaza, 3 LLC, amended preliminary and final site plan with C variances.
Have a couple of tripods, Ms. Chairwoman. Where would you like us to set those up?
You have what?
Tripods with exhibits.
I guess sort of over there.
Were the exhibits also submitted, and so we can put them on the boards or on the cameras, or no?
We can mark them.
Okay.
They're all,
They didn't give you for the screens, okay. No, just, so you know, for the future, we do have availability. If you give them ahead of time, we can put them up on the
I'm
screen.
sorry.
That's why I was asking.
If I would have known, I would have done that. I apologize. It'll take us just a moment to set up.
Ms. Borbley will mark them.
Eight. First witness is going to be John Tykina. Mr. Chairman, whenever you're ready. Okay. My name is Kevin Boris. I'm Mike. Or would you prefer I stand and use the mic?
That's-
Okay.
You're welcome to sit, though.
And you can sit, too, whichever.
Good, you sit, I'll stand.
Mrs. Chairwoman, members of the board, my name is Kevin Boris. I'm an attorney at the Weingarten Law Firm. I'm here on application, and when it was announced, I believe it was announced as 3717 PAF. I want to make sure that's correct because I have it as 3617 PAF.
It is both. Where's Dawn? You have 36.
Okay, 3617 PAF. Represent American Plaza 3. This is block 21002, lot 3 in Old Bridge. The applicant is seeking preliminary and final site plan approval. The applicant submitted notice and published in the papers. I'd ask if council had reviewed that notice and if the board has jurisdiction.
The notice is acceptable. Does anybody have any questions about the notice? Seeing none in the audience, you're good.
Thank you very much, council. This property is located in the EDO 3 district. The overall site straddles both Old Bridge in Middlesex County and Marlborough in Monmouth County. This application involves a proposed 5,129 square foot Chick-fil-A in Old Bridge. Due to the town's border and the border of the county line, the application does involve a shared lot, shared parking analysis. This application is very similar to an application that was before this very board about 2 years ago, where American Plaza 3 received approval for a bank at the very site where the proposed Chick-fil-A is now being proposed. So in lieu of the previously approved bank, we're now proposing a Chick-fil-A. That previous approval for the bank was approved by this board on June 14th, 2016, for a 3,644 square foot bank with 4 drive-through lanes. As I said earlier, the applicant is now proposing a 5,129 square foot Chick-fil-A with drive-through. Many of the variances that the applicant seeks tonight existed or are the same as the prior approved bank. And in some cases, we've actually decreased the impact of what we're requesting in variance relief. I have 3 witnesses tonight. John Taikina, Taikina. He is the Director of Real Estate for the applicant. I have Carl Penke, Carl with a K, Pehnke. He'll be providing testimony as a traffic engineer. And Justin Auciello, Auciello, will be providing planning testimony. We've also brought Devin McDonough, who is a professional engineer. He's here if the board has any questions or concerns, or any testimony will be provided, but we'll leave that if the board decides to call him. So with that, I will call my first witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your name is spelled correctly for the record, John Taikina?
It is Taikina, T as in Thomas, A-I, K as in Kelly, I-N as in Nancy, A.
Thank you.
And Mr. Taikina, can you explain to the board your position with the applicant?
Sure, I'm going to just run here, okay?
Yeah.
So, hi, I'm John Taikina. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for American Plaza 3. I've been in this position for the last 3 years. I'm also a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been accepted as an expert, actually, by this board several times. And I grew up here, so I get like extra points, right? So 360 City Street. It's always a good thing. It's nice to be back. So I'm going to take you through the whole application, kind of from beginning to end. I'll take you through where it is. I'll take you through what was approved before. I'll take you through our proposal. I'll explain to you what goes on in the Chick-fil-A. I'll explain to you a little bit about the Aldi and understanding that while only a very small portion of the site, 1.83 acres or so, it's actually in Old Bridge. You do have, it is within quote-unquote your purview, as I'm sure your attorney and your planner and your engineer will tell you. You can consider the stuff that's on the other side of the line. Because we're in both towns and both counties, we literally had to go get double approvals for this. Both boards had the ability to look, back and forth, because access is in Old Bridge for the site, parking is in Marlboro, so you are allowed to consider the whole thing. And fortunately, it was planned and designed as the whole thing throughout the process. I'll take you through the variances, and then we'll bring Carl up to talk a little bit about traffic, because that's always something that the board wants to hear about. And then Justin will take you through some of the variances and do say his magic words, and we'll roll through that process. You can ask me any question you want. You can interrupt me anytime you want, and I'll do my best to answer them. Or if I need to ask Carl or Devin or somebody else, I'll do that. But hopefully I should be able to answer your questions straight off, and we can have a good conversation. So A1 is an aerial photograph of the site. It shows Route 9 here on the left and Texas Road across the top of the drawing. The subject property in total for American Plaza 3 is a combination of 1.8 acres in Old Bridge, that's up here, and then another 13 acres that is, actually it goes back to about here, another 13 acres that is in Marlboro. So the total site is a little over 15 altogether. You can see we have access going out to Texas Road at the traffic light that is directly across from the driveway for the shops. And then we have access from Route 9 via the main driveway coming in this is where the Costco is. So this is kind of the back end, or the north end, if you will, of the Costco Center on Route 9. We have a an overall traffic plan and parking plan, and over 1,000 parking spaces total across the entire shopping center. And when we're finished, it will function as one shopping center. You won't be able to know one side from the other. Everybody able to park everywhere, be able to go everywhere. There's no restrictions. It's not like somebody going to Chick-fil-A can't park at Costco, or somebody going to Costco can't park at Chick-fil-A. Everybody can park everywhere. Everyone can go everywhere. Another thing that's a little bit unique that you might see when you've been out on the site is Marlboro actually did something. I don't know if Old Bridge does it too, but Marlboro actually has an ordinance where they require shopping center owners to provide commuter parking during the week, between 7 in the morning and 5 at night. And it actually works. So parking spaces that are, would be empty all the time, because, we all know our shopping centers are not very busy, particularly ones without a grocery store. There actually are shared parking. So we have 400 parking spaces that are provided for commuters over on the Marlboro side of the world. They're actually pretty well used. About 260 or so are used on any given day. But that's also another bit of shared parking that exists on the site. Not too much of it is going to end up on our parcel, on the parcel that's the subject of the application tonight. Most of it is over on the Costco piece and on the little strip center piece here, American Plaza 2, what we call this. Costco, we call American Plaza 1. But it's a neat little thing that actually works. So it's nice when the planners dream something up and it actually works. So they did, and it does, and it's a good thing. So that's the site, which is A1. A2 is our prior approval. This was what was approved previously. Again, it was a 21,000 square foot retail store on the south end of the site, and a 3,664 square foot bank with drive-through. Again, same access points coming off this main driveway. Again, the shops would be up. Route 9 would be over to your left. So again, well-planned, well-designed, just not the tenants that we ended up with. So when we were here for this, it was kind of speculative. When we're here now, we're here for for 2 real tenants that we have actual leases with, and we're ready to go and construct. Freewheeling a little bit on timing. You are our last approval, our last thing we need to get. So we have county approval from Middlesex, we have county approval from Monmouth. We didn't need DOT approval. We have municipal approval from Marlboro. We have all of our water and sewer things. We have all of our DEP permits, all of our wetland permits. So literally, as soon as we come through this process, we will be immediately proceeding to construction. And as I just said to one of our neighbor's attorneys, we hope that'll be as soon as 45 days or so. So we're very excited to get going. Like I said, we have real tenants that really want to get open and here in Old Bridge.
Ms. Chairwoman, I have copies of all these exhibits, if you'd like me to pass them out to members of the board.
That'll
It'll
help.
just take me.
You want to do that? Do that.
Are these different than what were submitted with the packets
The
application?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm proceeding with the site, so A2 was the top sheet of actually what you were handed. So you had the aerial, and then A2 was the top sheet. I'm now on the third page, which is proposed site and geometry. For you, it's probably 4. One more. So A3 is the proposed site and geometry plan, American Plaza 3, dated July 21st, 2017, prepared by EP Design Services. So we have Texas Road to the right. North is to the right on this exhibit. Now, the access road running back to Costco and to the rest of the center is on the bottom. The retail center that is up here at the top left, and this is all, this rectangle here is all the new application, if you will. So we have the existing driveway coming in stays essentially as is. The turning movements at the intersection will remain the same. You'll be able to have left in, right in, left in, and right in, left out, and also the ability to go straight across the intersection. The Old Bridge portion is this 1.83 acre triangle here. I guess it's a trapezoid more than a triangle. Good old Old Bridge Board of Education. With a 5,129 square foot Chick-fil-A with 112 seats. It has a double drive-through lane, so you have 2 stacking coming up to 2 order points, and then you merge together to have one lane coming up to the pickup window all the way at the end. There are approximately 10 spaces on the Old Bridge portion of the lot, and we have 237 total? 237 total? Number sticks in my head. 239, thank you. 239 spaces total within the confines of that total 15 acres. Again, those spaces are to be shared between the 18,580 square foot Aldi and the 5,129 square foot Chick-fil-A. 5,129 square foot Chick-fil-A. Thank you. And please, when I babble too quickly, smack me. So we have great parking, great distribution. Chick-fil-A enters from the center on the south side of the building. So we have a great parking field available for Chick-fil-A. And then Aldi's entrance is on the southwest corner, again, really oriented towards this side of the parking field, which is, again, really a nice arrangement. In terms of, so I said we have 239 spaces total. When I go to my individual users, Aldi needs 100. Chick-fil-A says they need 50 to 60. So again, we're a little bit overparked. We actually still don't meet the requirements of your ordinance. We do meet completely the requirements of the Marlboro ordinance. But we do, one of the variances we require is a parking variance from your requirements. Let's see. Again, access points coming in off the driveway. You have one access point that'll go to the west and proceed in, go right or left or straight, right into the main parking field here, continue out. And then we have another access point on the far side or the south side of Aldi where you can come up and hit this main drive aisle and again, circulate into the parking field here or out into this main parking field to the left. Very good access, very good distribution for our parking and circulation. Some of the site elements that are here, on the Texas Road frontage, there is a proposed 25-foot high freestanding sign that is on Texas Road. We do have a retaining wall that runs along the westerly boundary of the property, and these are the wetlands that remain. And again, we have a NJDEP wetland permit for this wall and the related buffers and averaging and all those types of things. One of the things, and again, one of the variances that we do require from you is a sidewalk. So we do not provide a sidewalk on on the south side of Texas Road. In working with the county, and Texas Road is a county road, given the permitting requirements that were going to be present for to proceed up Texas Road, it was felt that it was better to cross our pedestrians and take them out to Route 9 and the bus stop on this side, on the north side of Texas Road, adjacent to the shops, where there already is an existing sidewalk. Because that alternative was there, we did not feel that we could stand in front of DP with a straight face. So working with the county, they agreed that, yes, that north side sidewalk would be sufficient. And again, the vast majority of commuters coming up from the south park out in our main field and walk up to the parking spaces that are, to the bus stop, excuse me, that's located on Route 9 right in front of our site on Route 9. I did talk about the commuter spaces. So on the 15-acre parcel that we're talking about, there will be commuter designated spaces all the way here on the south, just about these 20 or so, and then these 18 across the top are also on this parcel that will be designated as commuter. Again, other than being striped yellow versus striped white, you wouldn't know. If you go there on a Saturday afternoon, you wouldn't know. But if you go there on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock, there will be cars parked, in these areas along the edges of the site. That'll be there. Again, we don't think it is going to impact us in terms of our actual demand, but it's something that's there.
Will those be available to Old Bridge residents?
No, they're in Marlboro, so you need to be a Marlboro resident to park there. I had spaces actually proposed in Old Bridge, and Marlboro would maybe take them off because they weren't in Marlboro. So if you'd like me to have those 7 spaces be striped for commuters in Old Bridge, and you have a way to, now they understand Marlboro stripes the lot, lights the lot, and plows the lot for their 400 parking spaces. So they don't necessarily get a free ride. But in Old Bridge, we only have 6 spaces here and 10 spaces here, so there aren't that many spaces on this site to designate for that.
Okay, I'm just curious.
It's a good question.
You have all those parking spaces. We shop at Costco and,
You're allowed to park there to shop, that's for sure. But no, the actual, they get a permit. They get a permit from Marlboro from the township to park there.
Do you know if there's a fee associated with that?
I do not. I don't think there is, but they are required to get a permit. They have a hang tag, so that we know that they're there, but I don't think there's a fee. Want to run through another couple of the variances that we do need. We talked about the sidewalk. We talked about the sign. It's a little tall. The ordinance has a requirement for decorative street lamps. We are proposing to match the lamps in the balance of the center so that, again, it all reads as one center. So there'll be regular shoe boxes. The ordinance requires that parking be set back 15 feet from the building. We're proposing 9.3 feet right along the front. Again, we think that's a sufficient sidewalk for the front of the building. And again, we're a little constrained with the wetlands that are here. So we're requesting that relief as well. The ordinance requires a 50-foot setback, where we're proposing 26.8. Again, that is something that is generated, again, by the line. I'll try to make sure I point out the ones that are generated by the fact that the township line is there. So that's one where this ends up being a rear yard, so that, we literally have a setback to the township line, and that's that variance. We are seeking four facade signs. We're seeking signage on all 4 sides of the building, whereas your ordinance allows for 2 sides. Because we're orienting to a major shopping center as well as to the street, we think it's appropriate to be able to sign the building on all 4 sides. We're seeking a sign of 59 square feet where 40 square feet is proposed. The prior approval was for 144 square feet, so we're a little smaller. Your ordinance requires a 50-foot buffer along the frontage, and we're proposing 43 feet along Texas Road. Again, we're kind of trying to fit ourselves into a fairly tight area and still be seen. The ordinance requires a 50-foot buffer along a residential lot, and we're proposing 7 feet on this western property line. And again, we're just seeking to continue this parking loop that comes down the west side of the site. So it's these spaces right here in the corner. 7 feet, yes. The drive is at 12 feet. The wall is at 7 feet. So like right here, we're at 12, and this wall is at 7. The trash enclosure, that is right here on the western side of the site. Your ordinance limits it to 6 feet, and we're proposing one that is approximately 9 feet. The trash enclosure that we're proposing is actually kind of a fully integrated unit that takes into account a little bit of storage, as well as the modern trash things that they're not the little 6-foot flat things anymore. They're a little taller, and the lids come over, so that we make sure that we fully enclose the trash, the literal dumpsters, if you will, and accommodate any of the outdoor any of the storage that we need for outside for snow blowers and those types of things. So again, we're seeking 9 feet. We think that's it's a better looking enclosure than one that would be 6 feet and have stuff sticking out of the top of it. We'd rather enclose it completely, have it match the building, look like a fully integrated site. And likewise, we're also seeking relief from the height of the screening of the trash enclosure. So I don't know, I guess we did it twice. So again, your ordinance is 6, we're proposing 9. Loading, very good one. Your ordinance requires a loading spot. We are proposing that we not have a loading spot for the building. The reason why is Chick-fil-A is not a 24/7 operation. The way that they deliver is their hours of operation are roughly 6 in the morning till roughly 10 at night. If the site is very successful, and like we said here, you're going to have a morning crowd because of the bus. The bus on Route 9 starts early, so, it might become 5:30. But because of that, they have the ability to load the store overnight. So a truck will come in, we'll literally park right across the front of the store. We'll load in the east side of the building through a man door there. Again, they're individual, 3x3 pallets that are, 6 feet high that roll. And they'll load the store overnight, and then the truck will pull away before they open in the morning. So because of that, we don't feel that we need the additional impervious coverage and dedicated space of a loading area for the Chick-fil-A, and we think that that's very appropriate. And then finally, your parking requirement is 1 parking space for every 30 square feet of a fast food restaurant. So we require 171 spaces. Technically, we're only providing 10 in Old Bridge because of all the spaces that we're providing in Marlboro. But I would submit to you, even if you count the Marlboro ones, we wouldn't meet your ordinance anyway, even if your whole site is in Old Bridge, because the standard is just a little high and outdated, I would submit. But again, Carl will be here to provide testimony that parking is more than adequate. As I said, Chick-fil-A needs about 50. Aldi needs about 100. We have 239. We need about 150. So we have more than enough parking, and having additional parking would really just be a waste of good pavement. Some of the waivers, we talked about the sidewalks, landscaping. The landscaping requirement that we need a strip 5 feet wide along the property lines. Because of the retaining wall that exists along this edge, we're proposing not to have the 5 feet there. Between the retaining wall, the material underneath the retaining wall, you really can't plant on top of the retaining wall. So we think that this is a better situation where we just where we don't have that landscaping strip right in that area. Again, site lighting, your ordinance is 18 feet. We're seeking to match the rest of the center at 25 feet. Your parking stalls, you're seeking 10 by 20. Your ordinance requires 10 by 20. We're proposing 9 by 18, again, to be consistent with the rest of the center. Again, particularly with this, as cars are getting smaller, we don't think that the 10 by 20 is necessary. We recognize the trucks are there, et cetera, but we do have a situation where we have pull-through spaces all throughout, and we think that that'll be more than adequate to accommodate any pickup trucks or large SUVs that are there. We're seeking a waiver on the stormwater management system from some of the peak flows. We are providing for significant reduction, but we're not getting all the way there on the two 10 and 50 and 100-year storms. For this individual site, we believe we do meet it for the overall, but we won't meet it for the little piece that's in Old Bridge. So again, it's one of those technical things that we run into with the split lot, split town situation. Let me do some operational things. As I said, Chick-fil-A is essentially 6:30 in the morning until 10 at night. If we're putting an ordinance and we're limiting it, and a resolution limiting it, we'd ask to stretch that out a little bit. Maybe the ordinance would the resolution would start at 5 a.m. and carry us all the way through midnight if they, if that market, proves to be here. Your ordinance in town doesn't restrict. You can be open 24/7 here. But again, we think that it's effectively 6:30 to 10. We'd ask for a little leeway if we put in the resolution on either end of that. And as you know, Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays, so they will not be open on Sunday. We do have the drive-through, which will be there. Again, that encompasses a significant amount of the activity for the use, which is very important. In terms of number of employees, they're about 12 to 15 on any one shift. Total employment will probably be north of 60 or 70 for the building itself. But we'd expect 12 to 15 employees at any one shift. Waste, we believe the facility is sufficient for the waste and recycling that were generated. Again, you fit it in there, and if it's fills up, you just get it emptied more often. We'd expect that we would be emptying either every day or every other day. And then trucks, what we talked about, everything comes in on the Chick-fil-A truck. There's basically one truck a day, comes overnight. It comes in and out fully from Chick-fil-A. In terms of the Aldi, again, just informationally, they're effectively 9 to 9, open 9 to 9. Kind of the same thing, one truck a day comes from Aldi. So they have good control of it in terms of big tractor trailers. We'll get an additional, like a hostess truck, like a hostess or a bread truck. But they're really the only two types of deliveries that they receive. They're a little less staffed. They're 6 to 8 during a typical shift, and there'll be, again, about 60 total for the site. Garbage is in a compactor in the loading dock, so it's screened, fully enclosed, and contained. And again, picked up either every day or every other day. There's some questions. There were some questions in the letters talking about some of the talking about parking, and I testified previously that everything is covered under an REA, a reciprocal easement agreement, crossing all three properties, all three centers, if you will. Everybody has full cross access. Everybody can park anywhere. Everybody can go anywhere. So it's seamless in terms of how the center operates. Showing up there, you won't know where one ends and one begins. Likewise, stormwater utilities, everything's kind of interconnected. So we're not in a situation where it becomes a problem because this center is owned by American Plaza 1 and this one's owned by American Plaza 2. They're all owned by the same person. And if they weren't, we have a recorded reciprocal easement agreement that says everything goes everywhere and everybody crosses everywhere. It's a recorded document in both Middlesex and Monmouth County. So taking through a few other things, let me keep going here. Looking at going to A4, it's a landscape plan. Again, pretty standard. Nice hedge along the front, shade trees in the parking lot, shrubs all around the boundaries. Good, really good coverage, a nice plan. There were some questions, I think, in one of the letters, and we have no issues with working with your landscape consultant on the couple of details that he was looking for. But again, it's a pretty comprehensive plan and fairly attractive, so we're pretty pleased with it. Getting to some of the details on the signage, and this is A5 detail plan. The sign, as we said, is 25 feet high, and we have a total of, I think I said 50, it says 74 square feet, total of 74 square feet all the way across the sign. So it provides for our two tenants and also for advertising for some of our tenants that are in the strip center. Costco is not on this sign. It'll only be Aldi and Chick-fil-A here. This is the sign that's on the Texas Road frontage in Old Bridge. The detail here is for the trash enclosure for Chick-fil-A. Shows the detail again. It's a masonry enclosure with a nice concrete cap on top. Looks like the same materials as the building. good, one more, two more. There you go. So good, nice materials. Looks just, same materials as the building. One thing I didn't talk about is stormwater, which I should have. So referring back to A3, all the stormwater for the site will be underground. So within the parking fields, there will be underground detention facilities providing for stormwater storage. And then we provide water quality at the end. But again, we have good and effective stormwater management. I think the details where we don't meet some of the details are in when you cross the lines, and if you only count the Old Bridge piece, we don't have stormwater management on the Old Bridge piece. It's all over on the Marlboro piece. And because it's in series, when you analyze it individually, it doesn't meet all the buttons, but when you put it all together, it does. So it's one of those details where we cross between the three. When you look at them individually, it gets a little hairy, but when you put it all together, it works nice. Let me do architecture. Were they in the back?
Other side.
Got it. Oh, the other side of this one, too. Got it. Aldi is here. All right, hang on, Aldi. Let's do Chick-fil-A first. So A6 is the front and front elevations. So the elevation on the top is what faces the parking lot. Again, you see a brick building, nice open glass, stucco accents at the top, a little bit of a base and middle on the top, nice cornice across the top. You see the awning features, metal sticking out. Again, going to the bottom facade, this is what faces Texas Road. Again, brick all the way across. Nice accent at the top with our cornice. Chick-fil-A signage on the two sides. And then going to A7, these are the two ends, if you will. So this is the end that faces the east, which is facing the access driveway. Again, all the same, all brick, nice accent at the top, cornice. And then facing the west, or Route 9, with the pickup window. And again, the awning. Four-sided building, fully designed all the way around. Same details on all four sides of the building. Very attractive, a little bit modern. We're very pleased with it. And then you wanted to do what? We got to ask for Aldi?
One of the comments. Comment 26.
So when anybody says I'm not flexible, I am. We can just keep doing this. So A8 is the Aldi elevation. Again, four-sided building, brick on all four sides. This is going from the bottom, actually. This faces the access driveway to the east. This faces the parking lot to the north. This side actually faces the Chick-fil-A. And then this is the south facade, which really faces the main parking lot. They have a corner entry, nice entry feature at the side, again, but a nice building, tripartite, base and middle on the top, brick all the way around, broken up horizontally and vertically. Rings all the bells for some pretty good retail architecture. That is the extent of my direct presentation. I do have Carl here to talk about traffic. We have Justin to talk about some planning things. But if there are any other, I also have folks here from Chick-fil-A if you want to hear from them. But I think I hit all their buttons. We're okay? You did all right? Okay. I figured I'd get yanked if I said something that was too bad. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
I'd like our professionals to comment.
Sure.
Please.
Is there going to be engineering testimony, or do you have?
Devin is here to answer any questions you have. I can bring them up, or I can answer I can answer the general or the factual.
All right.
If you,
Well, we have quite a few, so
Got a lot
I'll start
of comments.
with our letter here. Madam Chair, our letter was dated June 6th. And one item that I'd like to just clarify is that due to a clerical error, which is a fancy way of saying I lost the traffic study, Ms. Drum actually got the traffic study this evening, so she's in the process, while she's getting her thoughts together, I'll go through a couple of items as far as the variances go. The applicant did do a good job of going through all the variances. A lot of them are sort of technical in nature, but there are a couple that we just wanted to discuss, or I wanted to discuss. The signs, you're permitted 2 facade signs, and you're asking for 4, which typically, I'm not someone that's a staunch anti-sign person, and I believe that there's a brand, and you don't want to interfere with the applicant's branding. But you have signs on all 4 facades, is that correct?
yes.
The one facade basically is within 20 feet of a heavily wooded area. Why would you need a facade sign on the area that faces the woods?
Well, it does face Route 9. We think we will have some exposure both to the parking lot to the north, to the south, excuse me. I don't know, is the site plan up there anymore?
So, there's a,
So we have, we think we're going to have some exposure coming up Texas Road, and we think we will have exposure from the parking lot. We think it integrates. And
I'm looking at it on my aerial here, and there's quite a bit of woods between you and Route 9. There's quite a distance between you and Route 9. And then there's a huge swath of woods across Texas Road. So there's really no real sight line from Route 9 to the back of that building. But, so that's just one concern, but that's, it's whether, the same argument could be made for the negative impact. There's no negative impact because no one can see it. The other question, I guess, covering some of the other variances that we have on our list here. There is a requirement for screening along the property line where you're 12 feet off with the parking, 7 feet off with the retaining wall, and on your landscaping plan, there's no landscaping proposed along there. So is there? That would require a waiver, I imagine, or as we list in our letter. Are you going to? I did hear you say you're going to work with us. Is that one of the things that you're going to be working with us on?
We can. The issue there is, as you know, with the geogrid walls, you really can't plant on top of them with the grid. So it's a situation where we have a hard time with getting anything to grow there. We're also limited to go beyond the wall because of our wetland permits. So we're kind of caught in a bit of a pickle there. And it does kind of go internal to the center. So we think that it's an appropriate variance to be granted, that it's not going to have a negative impact because it is internal to the center.
Well, it does abut an adjoining property, which, again, based off the area, it looks like you may be wanting to buffer yourself from them than the other way around. But so that's also one of the variances which we don't have really necessarily have a problem with granting the waivers or variances. There are some things that we do need to work on. The variance regarding parking, I don't have any objection to that variance because the site as a whole is pretty well parked. And I agree with the applicant that our ordinance requirement of 1 space for every 30 square feet is a bit excessive and maybe a little bit antiquated for uses of this type, especially for the Chick-fil-A, which has really more of a drive-through, traffic and drive-through customers than even in-store customers. The size of the parking spots, again, we've had this discussion many times. I don't have an objection to the 9 by 18 parking spaces. That's more of a standard. I typically like seeing the larger parking spaces when you have a shopping center with shopping carts and things like that. I do, if we were to put 10-foot wide spaces, I would recommend them in the high turnover areas, like those spaces closer to the front of the store. But again, given this kind of use, it's not really like a Dunkin' Donuts type of use where people are in and out and in and out. This is more of a drive-through during the peak hours, and then the non-peak hours, people tend to stay a little longer than typical fast food restaurants. There are some circulation concerns. I think there's some things that maybe we could do to improve some things. Because typically, much to my wife's chagrin, I spend a lot of time at the Chick-fil-A drive-through, and the queues are quite excessive. And you do have some space from where you enter the site to get around, but there is some concern regarding how cars are going to queue here. How do you envision the queuing?
So we are referring to A3. We will have, obviously, the big thing that Chick-fil-A's done, and literally in the last, probably 2 or 3 years, is everybody's kind of gone to this double stack, getting up to the order locations. So overall, we have in excess of 20 vehicles stacking between the pickup window and when you get out of the, when you exit or get to the end of the queue, if you will. That's, totally within the drive-through area. If particularly, so at the beginning, this is going to be nuts. The pent-up demand for Chick-fil-A is great. So at the beginning, we acknowledge it's going to be nuts. So we would expect if we have a queue that comes out, Chick-fil-A will have a team member that will go out and direct folks not to enter the queue immediately on the east end, but direct them down and to use the northernmost drive aisle as the queue, so that the queue will wrap around to the west and then down and then, come all the way around. So you're talking about probably another 20, 15 or 20 cars that can queue there. And, again, if you get into 35 cars, you're there for 20 minutes. So, excuse me? Correct. And when folks, again, you're going to have a staff member out here kind of helping people in and out and doing what needs to be. That is not a typical situation. The typical fits within the 20 and you don't have the issue. Where you're going to get this extreme is going to be at the beginning when we open, and you might get a peak on a Saturday afternoon or something, but you're really not going to see it generally during the day or even during the evening. We don't expect it. But we do acknowledge that when we open, we have this demand that comes. So this is our, for me personally, this is my third Chick-fil-A, and I'm familiar with how they operate and how they will stack this. So, they have a plan if it gets extreme, but we don't expect that it's going to be necessary. We think the double drive-through and the 20 spaces handles it.
Does that double drive-through merge to one speaker or two speakers?
2 speakers and merges to 1 pickup lane.
And when are your peak hours?
You'll get a peak on Saturday afternoon, late lunch, and into early dinner, and then dinner. You'll have a peak at lunchtime, right at noontime, and you'll have a peak at dinner time. 6:30, 7 o'clock.
And you have customers in the morning?
Yes, they have breakfast. They have a chicken breakfast sandwich. Yeah, chicken and waffles. No, it's not chicken and waffles. No, they do have chicken breakfast sandwiches and.
Oh.
Sure.
So, I'd like to see an illustration of some kind with the queuing. If I don't know if you, obviously you may not have it with you here this evening, but
Well,
just may happen to have one.
just might.
Council, we'll mark this A9.
A9.
Ask and you shall receive.
Now, you said there were representatives from Chick-fil-A here?
Yes.
Correct? Could we possibly get some testimony on what they typically have as far as queue length and things like that? Or
Sure.
maybe your traffic engineer might be better to do that at. Either one's fine.
Sure, we can.
I know
put
the
'em up.
Chick-fil-A that I go to, the queue regularly wraps itself around the building. It's like a death spiral.
Get you sworn in. Could you
Get you sworn in.
state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Sure. John Martinez, Martinez. I'm a development manager with Chick-fil-A.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. First of all, thank you for being a customer. I've been a development manager with Chick-fil-A for 4 years now, but before that, was a consultant in other parts of the business. So I've been associated with Chick-fil-A for about 16 years. I actually designed all the Chick-fil-A's in New Jersey except for one. So I'm not sure which one you go to.
Centerton, well, not Centerton, the Mount Laurel.
Yeah, that was some of the first ones we did, yeah. And actually, that's a
And
great...
that's been there for quite some time and still queues, so it's not the initial
But-
pent-up demand.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly what Chick-fil-A does. Once we build a store, we learn from it. So that was one of the first stores we did in New Jersey. And since that time, we've built literally additional hundreds throughout the country. And I want to point a few things out that you'll recognize on the site plan. First of all, that store is a much more typical store where the building's in the center of the lot and you kind of have a one-way flow around there. So no matter kind of where you go, you're kind of crossing the drive-through to get in there. So this design here, we've isolated the drive-through customers from the sit-down customers. So when you come in here and park in one of these spaces, you don't have to go across the drive-through. It's a real customer enhancement, this facility. And with that, we've shown this exhibit, I'll have about 21 cars that can stack fully around the building without actually coming into the parking lot. Mount Laurel, that's those locations there. They were designed where they only had originally had the single drive-through lane, and they had a very short stack between when you order and when you pick up. And so we've made a lot of improvements over the years, Chick-fil-A has, because drive-through is important to us. It's a very important part of our business, and so we take a lot of care in improving that. And so, as John mentioned, during initial grand opening period, that first few weeks, we would anticipate a fairly high demand, but then that gets down to a normal state. And we're very confident that on normal business days, the drive-through will not exceed those 20 cars. We have technologies in place to handle that.
Thank you. So, just,
Do you have any other questions for the
no, I
Chick-fil-A?
don't. I mean, obviously, if the board has questions, certainly.
Sure.
You said you have technologies to handle that.
That's correct.
Can I ask what those could be?
Sure. So the biggest thing we have are the dual ordering technology. So when we can actually accept orders from 2 cars at the same time, which allows taking the order much quicker. So the slowest part of an entire drive-through operation is actually getting the customer's order. We have high-capacity kitchens. We can produce the order. We just need to get it from those folks. And so that allows that. We've also tested technology where we use iPads to take orders as well during those really peak periods of time. And so all these things are relatively cutting edge, but it has improved our delivery times to our customers, which doesn't mean more people come through the drive-through. What it does is it keeps the line manageable.
When you say iPads, you mean
Not in a part, no, they wouldn't go out and roam. No, there's designated locations where they could do that. So they've tested that in locations in New Jersey that use that. And it's really tested during the peak periods. As John indicated, he's right. Our lunchtime would probably be our biggest peak. And so we would try that. And of course, we would do it during good weather.
Anybody else have any questions of this witness? Or did you have any more?
I don't have any additional questions. I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your name.
John.
I don't have any questions for John. I do have some questions regarding the parking. The parking shows 5 handicap parking stalls, or ADA accessible stalls, I apologize.
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
The ADA requirements are, for a parking lot of 239 spaces, are 7. So we'll need to have 2 additional ADA stalls put in. I would recommend at least 1 more at the Chick-fil-A,
Okay.
and then the other, I guess, you can put the Aldi. Either way, but, that's just the one thing. And then the stormwater, there is some concern. I know there's a resident here, an adjacent resident. I've seen, again, after or very close to our review letter being submitted, we did receive a slew of emails from an adjoining property owner, and I actually had a chance to go out to the site, to visit the site this afternoon.
Is it better
Well,
today?
it's better today.
Okay.
A little bit, but again.
I have a reason.
I didn't visit I know you guys did the berm in front of the pipe, it looks like.
Well, there was a little more than that, actually, which is good. So actually, this is great. So Mr. Ida is our neighbor. Mr. Ida lives immediately to our east. So there's 2 things with Mr. Ida. One is the drainage, and then we also have an agreement with Mr. Ida to relocate his driveway. So his driveway now is immediately adjacent to our entrance, and we have an agreement with Mr. Ida to relocate his driveway further to the east. I'm sorry, I refer to A1. It's better picture. So Mr. Ida's driveway now is immediately to the east of our driveway where we come out. So Mr. Ida actually went and secured a permit from the DEP to move the driveway to the east. And the agreement was if Mr. Ida got the permit, that we would do the construction. So Mr. Ida did his part of the deal, and now we're going to do our part of the deal. So as soon as we begin construction, we will also relocate Mr. Ida's driveway, which is very important. Between the bank and our second Marlboro approval. It's been around, and I apologize. I've only been in this deal for the last year. So
Yes, it was a condition of the prior approval.
okay. So Mr. Ida got the permit, and we're going to do the construction. I told Mr. Ida and his attorney, Mr. Munoz, that we will do that right when we start construction. We'll do that. Said it'll be done, and it'll certainly be done before the winter of this year. So it'll be done in 2018. Which is good. Regardless, if for some reason we don't start construction, we will still build Mr. Ida's driveway before the winter. So regardless, we're going to build anyway. So we received the same emails and the same questions about the drainage, so we went out poking around. And it turns out what happened is, and I used to do this when I was a kid, like behind Brentwood and Glenwood on Route 516. So somebody went down in our detention basin down to the south here, and we keep calling it kids playing, and I literally think it was kids playing. That they built this bridge over the little creek there, and right by the exit point, and they literally plugged up the pipe, and with the bridge fell in and the trees, and it was so it was all snagged up, and it was clearly done. It was there's some effort there. It wasn't just how the trees fell and all those types of things. So, like we said, kids playing, and it plugged up the pipe, and it backed up the system all the way up and down this road. The system was full of water, halfway up to Costco and almost all the way out to Texas Road. So when we were able to unclog that, the system started draining a little bit better, and that worked out well. The second thing that we're going to do is there is an inlet on the adjacent here to the drive that we believe we can redirect some water that's kind of sitting there and get it to flow into there. So I think we'll be out on site tomorrow working on that. And Frank will reach out to you and make sure that you're kind of up to snuff with what he's doing. But we'll take additional steps there to make sure that we're addressing the drainage concern. But the number one was that, literally we had this, kids playing, building a bridge and blocking up a stream that backed up. So we were able to get out there and take care of it. We appreciate somebody letting us know, but we did get out there as soon as possible and address it.
Thank you. So no, the answer to that question, I appreciate that. That maybe will save Mr. Ida some time. I'm sure he'll have some other comments. We did, however, in our stormwater management review, it looks like, and again, I usually don't, on the board meeting, I usually don't get into all the nitty-gritty technical details on the stuff, but just a quick question regarding these, since there's stormwater is a concern here. You assumed a poor condition for the existing soils in your drainage calculations. You really need to assume a good condition. And what that does is it actually reduces the stormwater runoff in the existing condition, which then means that in the proposed condition, there's that much more runoff that needs to be attenuated. So this waiver for the 2-year storm, which right now is, I believe, 0.2 of a CFS, which is not a significant amount. It may actually be a larger number if you actually assume good condition for the existing condition, which is what the stormwater management rules require you to do.
We have no objection to doing that, and likewise, we actually have no objection to virtually anything in the letter.
That's good. That'll
Yeah, and
short circuit my comments
right.
too.
I mean, I think we were going to say, we'd agree for all the technical comments to work with professionals and resolve them. With one, what was our one exception? Oh, the 6 parking, but we would like the variance to allow the 6 parking spaces that are right there.
This is comment number 23.
Yes,
Comment number
yeah.
23. We would like the variance. We think parking matters.
So
and-
what the applicant's referring to is what we'd recommend. Now, we obviously don't have really much say in what goes on in Marlboro, but what we recommended was those 6 parking spaces adjacent to Lot 2 to the west be removed and sort of shifted, and that allows you a little bit more room to buffer our landscape. And that, I guess that's the one item in our letter that applicant is objecting to. I don't necessarily, feel very, very strong about it because the rest of the parking is going to stay within 5 feet. So it would really just be those 6 spaces. That would, I guess, really be something the board may want to just consider, but I don't feel like it's something I want to dig my heels in on.
And we don't want to dig our heels on it either. It's like one of those, at the board's pleasure.
That was pretty much it. So just to finish up the stormwater discussion, I don't recommend that waiver for that deviation on the 2-year storm. I think we can probably, especially since you're going to have to redo the calculations with the existing soil being considered in good condition, I think there's modifications you can make to the stormwater management system to get that flow down.
We agree, and particularly your fluidic cone suggestion is a good one, and one that I'm personally familiar with, so there's certainly a way I think we can eliminate that waiver and get it done. So, and for the board, what a fluidic cone, I actually know what this is, so it's, it's half of my fun. So when water flows down a pipe, it runs in a straight line, and when you do this fluidic cone, it basically looks like either a dunce cap or an ice cream cone or whatever. It's literally a cone, but it makes the water kind of walk around the block before it gets to the pipe. So it takes what would be a foot-long travel path and makes it like 2.5 feet long. It just makes it walk longer, travel longer, and that slows it down enough that it kind of creates a little bit of friction there and slows down that 2-year storm. And again, we're only talking about this water quality storm. That's an issue. There's a detail. It's not, when we get, Hurricane Floyd or Irene, the system's going to take care of everything. That's not what we're talking about. This is the everyday water quality storm to make sure that we meet the water quality standards. So we have no objection to working with the engineer to make sure we address that.
Okay, I have no other questions at this time.
Okay, does anyone from the board have any questions of this witness?
I think Ms. Drum might have a question or two. Sorry.
No, I know we're gonna,
Okay.
figured we'd divvy it up. There's so much stuff here.
And just to make clear, we do agree with everything in the letter, putting aside comment number 23. But any other comments from the board professionals' letter, we will agree to.
I have a couple questions. John, you testified that 239 spaces is the number that you're supplying.
Correct.
How many are you looking for us to let go from what should be required?
I believe your total, if you added everything up in your ordinance, would be 271. Did I read that right?
295.
295, I'm sorry. 124 and 171. I knew 71 was in there somewhere. So 295, and we're at 239. So it's, do the math, 56 spaces?
Okay. Now, you said that Marlboro had no problem with your approval.
We comply, correct, we comply with the Marlboro parking standard.
Now, is that including the additional lots that it looks like that you added on the adjacent property?
No.
The Costco property?
The Costco property previously complied with their standard. And when we add this property on, this property individually would comply with their standard, and the center as a whole complies with their standard.
Okay, well, I think maybe I'm not making myself clear. Your site for the Aldi's, okay, that looks like it's a property line. Is that a property line going up east to west?
Yes. The property line, it's kind of awkward. The property line for this continues out.
No, I'm talking about the one that's running east to west, parallel with Texas Road? Is that the property
Here?
line?
No, it's not.
Oh, that's just a sight line?
That's just an improvement line. Thank you. That's the exhibit. Thank you. Thank you. You're really good at this. This is the property line.
Oh,
So you're good. So it includes these spaces here as well. So it kind of wraps all the way around like this.
oh, okay.
This is just the improvement line for what is being constructed as part of this application.
Okay, so it's the same owner then?
Yes, we're all the same owner,
Okay,
but we have cross-access easements even if we weren't.
We don't know what
Okay.
you're doing.
that's it. Thank you.
Is that all going to be, because right now it's a mess. When you go in there, you don't know where you're supposed to be going, like to get to Costco's, or whether you're going into that little shopping area, or, I mean, are you going to have some better signage and
We can, if people will let us. Yeah, it will be,
not
when
overage?
when this is completed, everything is going to
It's going to all flow properly?
flow much
and not-
better and cleaner.
You'll know where you're supposed to be going?
Correct.
Anybody else have any questions of this witness?
I have a couple questions.
Yep.
I was wondering, first point, I am seeing indication next to the Chick-fil-A and the Aldi's of bike racks. Texas Road seems a little bit cumbersome in terms of bike travel. Are you anticipating a lot of bike travel? And it kind of threw me seeing those, so I was just wondering
I
how-
actually think it's a Marlboro ordinance requirement.
Okay, thank you. The second question that I had, in terms of the proposed loading time for Chick-fil-A, would that be before business hours or first thing in the morning at 6 a.m.? Because just kind of looking at that front area there, it seems as though my concern would be the loading truck blocking off a handicap space to utilize the ramp.
No, it's usually closer to the end of business hour, so business ends at 10, between 10 and 11. They'd probably bring the truck in at midnight.
Okay, so it also wouldn't conflict with any garbage pickup, which
Correct.
also, okay, understood.
And again, it's their truck, so they can kind of control it.
Okay. And my last question is that the landscaping choices that were made, is there any indication, despite stormwater alterations, that the site may still be very saturated? Because some of the choices seem to indicate more water-tolerant trees.
More water, I don't understand.
When I see things like sweet gum or honey locust, that is indicating to me that the soil is very, very wet. So I'm just wondering if those choices were made.
They were made because the soil on the site is a dense kind of clayish material, and
The holding.
the first soil we're using for the site is the site soil. We don't anticipate even to have an import. So we'll be using the soil that's there. And
Okay.
it's dense, so the stuff grows in that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I have a few follow-up questions, if you don't mind, based upon your, the trash truck. What times is the trash truck? I'm not sure if I heard that.
They're overnight.
Okay, all right. You also made a comment that you want a little bit of leeway in regards to hours of operation. Was your intention to possibly go to 24 hours?
Not at this time, no. It would be permitted by ordinance, but no. Our intention is to open at 6:30 in the morning till 10 at night. If the demand shows, particularly because of the commuter nature of Route 9, that, no, there is a demand a little earlier, that might go to 6 or even 5:30. You know, I know when my dad used to go to the bus, it was 5:30, so I get it.
My only concern
And likewise,
is-
at night, you might show, particularly, you might show that the nighttime, might drift a little bit from 10 to 11.
Yeah, my only concern is you're going to be open and you have the tractor trailer sitting in front, which is basically where everybody wants
No,
to park. That was my main concern. The monument sign, did you have a detail of the monument sign?
Yes, it was on A6, 7?
A5.
You're proposing a changeable sign, correct?
Not anymore. Right? You don't have a changeable. You're not changeable, right? No. No.
Okay, sorry.
The details show changeable.
Yeah, I think the
So the details show changeable, but you're not proposing changeable, right?
Strike that. I'm corrected. We have a changeable message on Texas Road.
I guess, what are the parameters?
What sheet is that, Devin? What sheet is that? Sheet 22? Can you go to 22? Please? Two more.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah, they're just really, it's the letters. You actually have to go out there and change the lettering.
Yes,
correct?
it's
Yeah,
not
okay.
electronic. It's
That's
just
fine.
switch letters. I'm
Understood.
sorry. I should have let you ask your whole question.
No, that's all right. Is the intention, and maybe I know it's outside probably our purview, but the main identification sign, the pylon sign, is the intention also to put Chick-fil-A on there, or just
Yes.
curious?
Yes,
All right, so you're going to have the monument sign for Chick-fil-A as well as on the pylon sign?
correct.
And are you proposing, as part of Chick-fil-A, is there going to be any internal signage for like directory to the drive-through or anything like that?
Yeah, there's the standard directory type of things that are there, referring to A9. There's a height bar.
Yeah, I'm
it's,
I'm
it
talking
says-
about more like directing people like to the drive-through or anything like that.
No, nothing beyond the standard signage. I mean, we don't have an objection to adding a directional sign or
No, it's just
that
asking.
anybody folks thinks is necessary, but nothing beyond their standard package.
That's fine.
Yeah, what I was thinking is what we talked about earlier, where you don't want people to just come in and swing right into the drive-through. Some signage to direct people to go around to form your queue, sort of, I guess.
We could.
I think one of my concerns I have, and again, it's more on the Marlboro side, but is as you're coming in, as you come into the entrance off of Costco Drive, people really have to make 3 decisions, either go straight, they make the left, or they make the right towards Chick-fil-A. And, you ever been, Chick-fil-A has it's very concentrated traffic, primarily at lunchtime. My concern is that you have a lot going on right there at that first internal intersection. And there's a, possibility it could be blocked by somebody who's trying to come out of the Chick-fil-A and kind of blocking people in. Just maybe a suggestion, maybe a board consideration or the applicant's consideration, maybe, I don't know, don't block the block, park signage or something. I mean, I just think that is going to be a really concentrated, intersection between, it's the first access off of Texas Road, to the Aldi as well as the Chick-fil-A. I just think that's going to be a really concentrated area that may need a little bit more enhancement.
We received similar comments from Marlboro, and I know, as I said, these plans are dated a little bit ago, so there are a couple things Marlboro wanted that are, bring us up to date. So I think as we reconcile the two comments between the two towns, we can make sure we accommodate some of those comments.
Yeah, my other concern is also, I'm not sure you actually can get a tractor trailer circulating through this. It's a very tight site as you come in off of Texas Road, because a tractor trailer is not going to be able to make that 90-degree to get into the parking. So I am very concerned about circulation of a delivery truck. I know it's happening 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, but again, you still have to get people, you still got to get it around the site without hopping landscape islands.
No, we think we can get it in, but again, Marlboro had some of the same comments. But we'll make sure we reconcile them.
One of my primary comments, at least along Costco Drive, is they are proposing a sidewalk along Costco Drive. But it's you have basically a 1-foot offset from the curb, a sidewalk, and then a curb into the drive-through lanes. So I'm very concerned about that pedestrian safety. And it was one of my comments, and I know they said they would comply because we just want a little bit more buffering between, the sidewalk as well as the curb, because, there is a lot of traffic along Costco Drive, and, you have people coming in, the queuing area. My concern that I have is, as you start making modifications, to that, one is it may impact one of the parking spaces along the front, and 2, that turning radii into the ordering area might be a little tight. So it's just something that, we haven't, when the revised plans come in, it's something, we need to be cognizant about.
Yeah.
Regarding that.
Well, when we work on that, and again, it's a little tight there, I agree. When we were working with Marlboro, we talked about some bollards, some different things that I think can address some of your concerns.
Bollards in what aspect?
Between the sidewalk and the drive-through, and again, between the drive-through and the patio area that's on the side.
So you want to propose a sidewalk, you want to do a curb, basically 1-foot offset, a sidewalk, and then bollards, and then a curb?
Yes.
I'm not comfortable with that, I'll be honest.
We're happy to work with you and
But
get you
that's something
comfortable.
that,
We
the
can work it
board
out.
can consider on that. And it's a little unusual that you're going to have a bollard along a sidewalk, especially along a roadway. I mean, internally to a site, bollards you see, along parking, in front of the parking spaces, things like that, that's pretty standard. But to have bollards along a sidewalk on a access roadway, I think is a little unusual. I did quickly review the traffic study. I think Mr. Penske can probably actually provide a little bit more testimony. The one thing that that is going to occur, I'm sure everybody is aware of, the main access to Costco Drive is pretty much going to be blocked. For people that are waiting to get to the light. So it is going to be blocked. And again, that was one of my other issues, because people have to wait to either get a gap or wait for the traffic to clear. It's going to queue on site. So it becomes a little bit more concentrated in that immediate area. So just, that's just real world. It probably backs up now, but there's not a driveway there now, or at least development. So just be cognizant of that. The one thing in part of the bank resolution was that there was going to be signal upgrades completed at Texas Road and Costco Drive. And I'm just curious where that may stand. Because the one issue is, because we are asking for a waiver along Texas Road, so the theory is, you know, we're going to have everybody go across the street. I'm not sure the push buttons are ADA compliant, as well as, I think there may be countdown timers, but, you know, the whole ADA compliance, I'm not sure is there right now at that traffic signal.
We, as part of our county approval, we did have an upgrade to fully upgrade
Okay.
the intersection. And most of the work, if not all the work, is completed. I think we're in like final punch list.
Oh, now, you've already, okay,
yes.
out in the field.
Yeah.
Okay, might be something Mr. Penke can, just more curious if there's going to be any timing changes or anything like that.
Yeah, I think
regards to-
anything that was proposed, timing changes that is done, like literally we're down to, you know, get the push button at the right height and make sure the sidewalk's the right pitch type stuff.
Right. Other than that, I mean, I have a few other issues, but again, they said they're going to comply with our letter.
Okay. Mr. Hart, did you have anything?
How you doing? Just a couple of concerns now with everybody worrying about your drive-through. Can we relocate that hydrant?
Yes.
Okay. Somewhere, maybe on the first island when you come in, where that stop bar is, or somewhere away from where it is?
Yes.
Okay. Other than that, the hydrant was my main concern, but they're gonna make lefts into that from Costco Drive?
Yes.
They are, okay. The other building, I noticed it changed from the last set of plans that you added the extra driveways, and I know on the one sheet, it shows a hydrant for this big building to probably be suppressed. They're gonna stop right on Costco Drive, where that hydrant is located? Is that what was approved in Marlboro?
Yes.
Okay. And you're not concerned about the traffic being backed up then?
No.
Okay. All right, so we can move the hydrant, that's not a problem?
Not an issue.
Okay. Okay, that's all I got.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I
Kevin.
have one more question.
Yes.
Title 39, did Marlboro ask for Title 39 or not?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we also had a memo from Mr. Lovato. Have you reviewed that?
Yes.
Okay, because it said you have to appear before the,
We spoke with Mr. Lavallo, I believe, today, and he has agreed that we don't need to go to the Shade Tree Commission. He kind of re-inspected the site and got a little better oriented as to what was actually the property in question as opposed to what it looks like. And when he realized that a lot of the trees that he was concerned about were actually in the wetlands that we weren't touching, he understood that we're only developing on what's already developed, and he agreed we would not be required to go to the Shade Commission. But at the balance of his recommendations, we have no issue with.
We will agree to work with Mr. Lavallo on any suggestions he has. The discussions we had are,
okay. Any other questions from the board? Yes.
Okay, so I was here when we had the approvals for the 2 parking spaces that were with the bank on the other side of the shopping center. This being a lot more in Old Bridge, what I'm hearing is a lot that Marlboro agreed to this, or Marlboro had said this. Has there been any collaboration? Because it seems like we're shooting from the hip here on this side saying, okay, we'd like this, and I hear Marlboro has said that's okay, or Marlboro has said whatever. Has there been any communications between it? Because this is a larger portion than 2 parking spaces. All right, so I'm concerned that we need to understand, and I'm sure you guys know what Marlboro's requirements are for parking spaces and so on, and we're accommodating their parking spaces maybe 9 by 10, so we want to be the same across the board. But just the concern of Marlboro has gone through this, and we've done this with Marlboro. From our perspective, we need to understand fully, from a board standpoint, what Marlboro has agreed to, what Marlboro has said. So that's pretty much it.
I do intend on actually having a conversation with the board's engineer, particularly Marlboro's board engineer, particularly with regard to Mr. Ida's issue, but also regarding the site as a whole. We obviously do want the site to be consistent between the two towns. This happens, I won't say all the time, but it's not uncommon where you have sites that are bifurcated by municipal lines, and in this case, a county line. And you do want the
It's
sites.
my first in 2 counties. I've done 2 municipalities.
I've had a couple with 2 counties too.
My first one, 2 counties.
Terrible.
Yeah, well, case in point was our concern with the 1 foot between the sidewalk and the curb.
Right.
Is that a requirement, or is it okay?
Well, that's actually, I don't know that any town would ever have that as a requirement, but I do plan on having that discussion with their board engineer as to what her thoughts were on that. We have concerns, and I think the applicant's we're gonna find a way of addressing that. But what I was beginning to say is we do want consistency between the sites. We certainly don't want it to be, disparate looking where you sort of can tell, well, this is the Old Bridge side and this is the Marlboro side. So things like the lighting, I have, again, really no objection to that because you want the lighting to be consistent. You want the height to be consistent. Even the parking spaces, you want all that to be consistent. So, but we'll work with the applicant and we'll communicate with Marlboro and make sure that, all that stuff is ironed out.
Yeah, primarily it was just for an understanding of
Absolutely.
cross borders.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay, yes, Mr. Pink?
Everybody's been talking, or you have been talking, a lot about the deliveries, when they would be working and coming into Chick-fil-A. But you also have another store there, Aldi's, which I believe gets deliveries during the day as well as overnight. And you're gonna have these big tractor trailers trying to get into Aldi's. It seems like everybody forgot about Aldi's. But that's gonna cause more problems traffic-wise also, especially, we're not talking the little box trucks, we're talking about the big trailers.
No, Aldi,
Given consideration.
yes, it has. Aldi has a single tractor trailer that comes every day. They typically will come early in the morning before the store opens and hope to get the truck empty before the store is open, and then be able to pull it out sometime in the morning. Their only other delivery that they get is like a bread or I keep calling it the devil dog truck or the hostess truck. That's it. They don't have, it's not like a typical, even Costco or supermarket where you're getting 4 or 5 or 6 tractor trailers a day. It's 1 per day, comes in early morning, is empty before the store opens, and then they pull it out. So their delivery is much more limited than, a Pathmark or a Stop and Shop or a ShopRite or something like that.
Kind of think they get more than one. I'm talking about the one major delivery. Again, like, I'm not talking about the small box trucks, but I do believe that the trailers don't always come in 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. That might be the optimal time, but that doesn't mean that's what happens.
No, that's as we understand, and we have, this is our 6th or 7th Aldi. So it's been pretty consistent in terms of how they operate. It's their truck, so they have control over it. But again, it's only 1 a day. So even if it is during the middle of, to have 1 truck in and out a day is
Well, it
not a
depends.
significant impact.
If it's a big truck, trying to maneuver between all the cars that are there and in the parking lots and getting into what looks like almost an impossible for a big truck to get into that area,
No,
I
it's,
think you should worry about it.
okay.
Okay, anybody else from the board? Okay, I'm going to open up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that has any questions or comments? Okay, seeing no hands, I'll close the public portion. Do you want to summarize? Or do you have any more testimony, or are you finished?
Yes, Ms. Chairwoman, members of the board, we have 2 more witnesses. We have a,
They're way shorter than me.
the testimony would be much shorter than Mr. Tykina. We have a traffic engineer and a professional planner that
Oh,
will
okay.
address. So I'll invite my second witness up. Actually, I'm sorry, third witness, because we had someone from Chick-fil-A.
We get you sworn in? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And state your name for the record, please.
Sure. For the record, my name is Carl with a K, Penke, P as in Peter, E-H-N-K-E.
And Mr. Penke, can you provide the board with your educational and professional experience?
Sure, I am a registered professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, as well as several other states. I'm a vice president with Langen Engineering and Environmental Services. My area of expertise is traffic engineering, which I've been practicing for over 33 years, and I've appeared before this board in the past.
Okay, we'll accept your credentials.
Thank you for accepting Mr. Penke as a
Thank you.
traffic engineer.
Yeah, I'll be brief. There was a traffic impact study prepared for this application and submitted. It was dated November of 2017 and revised to February of 2018. And it was submitted with the board, and Ms. Drum is busy digesting it since she didn't have a chance to review it. However, it is a relatively straightforward traffic study that was prepared. In preparing the study, we did conduct and sample traffic counts at Texas Road and the Costco driveway, shops at Old Bridge driveway, back in September of last year. We inventoried vacant space within the existing facility so that we were projecting for tenancies that had not been occupied yet, and prepared projections for the proposed, all basically the shopping center expansion and for the Chick-fil-A. And all of that's summarized within the traffic impact study. I think John has done a really good job, and you have walked through the site, the circulation, and the parking. I think the key thing I'd like to point out, if you had a chance to read the traffic study, is that the key intersection that this basically shopping center relies on is the Texas Road intersection. The intersection was designed with a traffic signal when it was initially built and has been operating since as such. The traffic study basically shows that with the additional traffic that will be generated by the completion of the shopping center with the Aldi and the Chick-fil-A, that it will continue to operate basically as it is doing in a no-build condition. There's no significant deterioration in the operation, and in fact, the intersection has quite good levels of service, and the C range are better during the various peak hours. And we did look at 3 critical peak hours. We did look at the morning peak hour on a weekday because we'll have operations going on in the morning. We did look at the evening weekday and a Saturday midday. So we looked at the critical hours that we would expect the biggest impacts to occur. We would note that late last year, as we were processing this application, we had found out that there were problems at the traffic signal. Upon investigation, what we had found was the signal was actually operating in a fixed time mode for some reason, which is very inappropriate for a roadway that has variable traffic flows throughout the day and throughout the week. The intersection was originally designed and signal designed to operate in a variable mode and be more traffic responsive. That's since been corrected, and the other thing that is still going on is when the signal was originally designed, it was designed to standards that have since been updated quite a bit, most particularly with regard to pedestrian safety and pedestrian accommodation at intersections. So we are in the process of working with the county in updating the design so that we can modify some of the pedestrian features at the signal to make sure that they're meeting current standards in accordance with county criteria. So that's a little bit of subsequent work that'll be occurring that won't affect the operation of the signal. So the signal is back in operation the way it was originally intended to be, and will be responsive to the changing traffic demands on the site. I think John, as I said, has gone through and discussed the parking. I would just support his statements with regard to the adequacy of parking on this site. While we're seeking a variance from your parking standards, basically for 2 reasons. One, because only a small portion of the project falls within your municipality. And then the second reason being the parking standard for fast food restaurant we think is a bit high. The fact of the matter is this is a center and it is part of a larger facility, and the parking as a whole is adequate to accommodate the needs of the Chick-fil-A and the Aldi. The other thing I would point out that John didn't mention, and I'll look to, I guess, the exhibit that's up on the screen, but just so the parking basically for Chick-fil-A really falls towards the northern portion of the site and is really not competing with the Aldi parking. The Aldi front door is towards the southern portion of the site in the southwest quadrant, so its prime parking really is falling there. So it actually is a very efficient layout in terms of where people want to park for the two uses, and I think that's going to work very well from a site safety and circulation standpoint. With regard to the drive-through, I would just reiterate what Mr. Martinez said and Mr. Tykina said. This site is designed to address what Chick-fil-A has learned through the years. The examples that I think we were talking about earlier down in Mount Laurel, even Marlton, Cherry Hill, those are all older type prototypes that really were the single stack feeds to to both the ordering board and to the windows. This facility, as proposed, actually is solving that by creating the double order board. And what Chick-fil-A has also done in researching and understanding its operation is it specifically designs the location of the order board at about the 7-8 vehicle position. What that does is, once you place your order, as you proceed past your order, by the time you reach the window, the only thing that occurs there is the exchange of money and food. You're not waiting for your product to come through the window at that point in time, because the order has occurred far enough back that there's plenty of time to process. So it's a continuous movement from that standpoint. So they have refined and dealt with their normal operations, and as was indicated, at periods, particularly when they open the store, they do know how to operate it. And any of us that have probably been to some of the older Chick-fil-A's, you can see how they've learned to manage their facilities, even the ones that don't have the current designs. So I would suggest to the board that this design represents a more current version that is accommodating of the types of queues and operations that they've experienced and learned from through the last couple of years. Again, deliveries are at night. They're by a Chick-fil-A vehicle. It comes out of Maryland. It's a key drop, and it's occurring when there's really no other activity on the site, which is a good thing. Same thing with your garbage at night. Overall, I believe that the project will operate safely. It'll operate efficiently, and the parking will be more than sufficient to accommodate the needs on this site.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Penke?
No, I think that summarizes it.
Any questions from the professionals or board?
Did you have any comments?
Yeah, just have one question. I noticed in the level of service, I know we increased it about 20 seconds on Costco Drive. I was just curious, through the county process, is there going to be any more time allocated to Costco Drive, or is it was pretty much set back to when it was originally approved?
I think we're sticking with the timing directive that was originally approved. I can get a copy of that as a condition of approval. Middlesex County does pretty much have us set these as highly variable, so the analysis actually may not be properly fully replicating it. It's probably getting more time when it needs to than the analysis is suggesting.
Is Middlesex County, I'm just more curious, I know they've been going to having fixed timing for the peak hours, like 7 to 10, like 3 to 6. Did they? I'm just more curious if they've insisted on that with the upgrades, or is it all variable?
I think it's a case-by-case basis. I've got another one that I'm designing right now, and it's gonna be fully variable throughout the day. So
Right.
I think it's a case-by-case with Middlesex County.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Any questions from the board, comments? Yes.
I know this is a little outside your purview, but is there any indication on Route 9 of signage for Chick-fil-A or Aldi, or is that strictly going to be indicated on Texas Road?
John, I'm going to refer that back to you. I didn't,
No, they'll be on the new pylon on Route 9.
Okay. I don't know if this is too far outside the area of concern, but what I'm wondering about is if you're coming on 9 South and making the jug handle turn, or coming from Texas Road on the other side, the 2 lanes that go across Route 9, one is straight only and one is straight and right, and you will ultimately, from that southbound side of Route 9, need to be in the rightmost straight lane in order to make that left turn. Depending on how traffic backs up, that can be difficult. Is there any adjustments accounted for in that, or is that just way outside the scope of what the project is?
pretty far out of the outside of the scope. We're not looking to do any changes with the state, and I know they have a repaving job going on out there right now. So there's nothing proposed with regard to that associated with this project.
Okay.
I would just like to shoot back on one thing, Diana, on that buffer between the drive-through and Costco Drive. We think the solution is pretty simple. We would do a 4-foot grass strip from the curb at Costco Drive, 4-foot sidewalk, and then we can shift the drive-throughs in to have a 4-foot buffer. So
Yeah, that was fine.
that's fine.
Sorry, that was my original intention.
That's fine. We can accomplish that.
All right, thank
We're
you.
just looking at that. Yeah, yep.
Okay, did you have other witnesses?
We have our professional planner.
Okay.
Do I need to be open to the public, even though?
Yeah, does anyone from the public wish to speak on the traffic?
Yes, I have a question. It might be
need
Robert
to
F.
get your
Munoz,
name.
Davison,
What?
Eastman, Munoz, Letterman, Payon, on behalf of Mr. Ida. A question, John, maybe John, this is for you. Where's the delivery area on the Aldi's?
It's on the north side of the building. This plan is not, has not been updated to the, fully to the Marlboro approval.
Okay, would you just demonstrate for us where the north side?
Basically lying in here now.
Yes.
Okay, I thought so because I was a little surprised when I went up and looked closer at it. That was my question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else from the public for this witness? Okay.
Mrs. Chairman, or Chairwoman, and members of the board, I'll call the last witness, Justin Osceola.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
It's Justin Auciello, Auciello, a professional planner, state of New Jersey.
Mr. Osceola, can you provide the board with your professional and educational history?
Yes, absolutely. I've been a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey since 2007. I've been practicing planning since 2004. I'm a graduate of Rutgers School of Planning in 2005. I have been really involved in all facets of planning, master planning, redevelopment. Much of my practice is devoted to this type of work with testimony and land use matters. I've appeared at planning and zoning boards in 17 counties in New Jersey.
Okay.
I've actually appeared
We'll
at your
accept
planning.
your.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for accepting
You as well.
Mr. Osceola as a professional planner.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so Mr. Tykina actually stole most of my thunder. Did a very nice job with going through the sites and the variances that are required. I think really kind of in the overview here is that, we are dealing with a site which is a comprehensive shopping center. It's unique in the fact that it does straddle 2 municipalities. Most, of course, is in Marlboro. And it's also unique in the sense that we do have frontage on 2 roadways. Actually, this parcel has the frontage on 2 roadways, and there's also an area which is environmentally sensitive on the portion to the I believe that's the west of the Chick-fil-A. So we are kind of in an area of the shopping center that, not going to say that there's any hardship here, but we are dealing with some constraints that we're working in the confines. As you're well aware, the board in 2016 had granted approval for the bank. I had actually appeared for that matter and provided the planning testimony. Many of the variances that are required tonight for this application were granted in the previous application. In some instances, we are actually improving those conditions. I can go through the variances that are listed on page 12 I'm sorry, on page 4 of 12 and page 5 of 12, and the waivers as well. And I'll go through that very briefly. Mr. Tykina had provided much of the rationale, but just for the purposes of the record, I'll just roll through that very quickly. The first variance that you have referenced is for the antique style lamps that are required. Previous testimony had stated that shoebox lamps are proposed for the Chick-fil-A, which is consistent with the lamps in the rest of the shopping center. We don't really see any detriment to the public good in that instance. Of course, they're attractive lights and they're going to serve their purpose. Second variance is for the sidewalk that is not provided on the frontage. Mr. Tykina had previously stated that the DOT agreed not to have the sidewalks on this side on Texas Road, and that it was a better arrangement to have the pedestrians to cross on the crosswalk to the other side to access this property. So again, there's no detriment with that variance. Third one that you have listed requires a 12-foot wide sidewalk that's along the front access area to the commercial building, whereas as proposed is 9.3 feet. Again, we think that is sufficient for this application, and if you recall from the previous application with the bank also had a 6-foot wide sidewalk, so this is a slight improvement of 3.3 feet. Fourth variance that's required requires all parking areas in commercial buildings to be separated by a minimum distance of 15 feet. However, as proposed tonight, the parking area encroaches within 9.3 feet of the building. Again, we think that in working within the confines of the sites and in the shopping center, we think it's appropriate, and we certainly do not see any detriment to the public good as well. The next variance is requirement of a rear yard a setback of 50 feet, whereas 26.8 feet is proposed. Previously approved bank actually had a 0-foot setback. So this is a substantial, this is a improvement from the previously approved condition. And of course, we are dealing with the municipal line that runs through the property. It's an invisible line. There's really nothing we can do other than make a substantial improvement from that previously approved condition, which we have. So again, certainly no detriment to the public good with that as well. The next variance is to allow corner lots, corner lots can have a maximum of 2 facade signs, whereas as proposed is 4 facade signs. We believe, of course, that those signs are appropriate. They're there to orient the shoppers in the shopping center and also the drivers on the street to the site. So we think that we can, reconcile that deviation with that. And of course, we also believe that there is no substantial detriment to that variance as well. The next variance is a waiver. Is a variance because we are going to exceed the sign area. We propose 58.89 square feet, and that exceeds the 40 square feet requirement. The previous application had a sign area of 144 square feet. So we are scaling that down substantially, and I think you also heard from Mr. Tykina that this is an attractive sign that will match the facade of the building as well. So we think it serves a purpose, and we don't see any detriment to that variance either. Next variance is a requirement of a 50-foot buffer along the entire frontage of a non-residential lot abutting the arterial road, whereas the drive-through of the Chick-fil-A encroaches within approximately 43 feet of Texas Road. Again, we are dealing within the confines of the sites, and we are, trying to accommodate that drive-through area in an area which is most appropriate. no conflicts from that variance, and we don't see any detriments of granting that variance either. The next variance is a requirement of a 50-foot buffer to be established along any adjoining residential lot, whereas the parking stalls and an access drive are proposed within 12 feet of residential lot 2, and a retaining wall is proposed within 7 feet. Again, we think this is reconcilable with the fact that we are within the confines of an existing shopping center. Mr. Tykina had testified that we do need to have the continuous, parking loop from throughout the shopping center to come into this area. So we think there is a practical purpose for that variance as well, and we don't see any substantial detriment to the granting of that variance either. Next variances, I believe actually the next two variances relate to the enclosure wall for the trash enclosure. We believe that as proposed, as you heard from Mr. Tykina, we do propose a height of 8 feet. This is not your typical trash enclosure. This is a modern trash enclosure that also has an area for storage, and some of the components of that storage do require a bit higher of elevation. So in order to prevent anything from sticking out and being disorderly, we believe that there is rationale for that variance, and it will be attractive enclosure as well. So again, we don't think that has any impact on the public good either. Next variance relates to the loading space. There's been a bunch of testimony on that. We don't believe we do need a loading space, and certainly we think that can be granted as well without a substantial detriment to the public good. The next variance relates to parking. You heard testimony from Mr. Tykina and Mr. Penke as it relates to that. We think that the parking obviously is sufficient, and also, which is important in this instance, there are full cross-access easements throughout this property. I believe, as your engineer had also said, that this is a drive-through, oriented type use. So we think the parking is fine in this instance. Just to give you some of, I think Mr. Tykina said the magic words previously. As the board knows, we require a series of bulk variances. We'll classify them under C2, not C1 hardship, but C2, whereas the benefits of granting the variances do outweigh the detriments of those variances. We believe that we do advance multiple purposes of the municipal land use law. The first one is criteria C, to provide for proper light, air, and open space. We believe that this site has been designed really to accommodate a structure that is really not going to have any impact on light, air, and open space. I think importantly as well, we're going to advance D to ensure that there are no conflicts with with Marlboro. We are working, as you heard from multiple witnesses, that we are working with Marlboro to accommodate the proper functioning of the shopping center. So I think it's important to state that for the record as well. Criteria G we're advancing to provide for sufficient space. We believe that there is sufficient space on this property, even though we are dealing in the confines of the roadways, the area to the west, and then of course dealing with the split line that's to the property as well. We believe that there is sufficient space, and this has been engineered properly. Criteria H, to ensure the free flow of traffic. You just heard testimony from Mr. Penke, which has stated that this will circulate property, and there will have no impacts on the off-site or the on-site traffic system. And I think importantly as well, we do advance criteria I, promote a desirable visual environment and good civic design. This building's attractive. The signage matches the material of the building. There's landscaping throughout the property. There's shrubs. We believe that this is a comprehensive plan that really takes into account the highly visible nature of this use. Of course, negative criteria, we don't believe that we present, or these variances present a substantial detriment to the public good. We believe that we've been working with the township to meet the needs of the township and also, you know, in the needs of the overall shopping center. We have, you know, we understand that there's residential that's adjacent to this property. And again, we're working within the confines, but we're also, the plan shows that we have, you know, mitigated the impact on the residential property as well. So certainly do not see any substantial detriment. The last point of the negative criteria is no variances should be granted if there is a substantial impact on the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. Your zoning ordinance takes its purposes from the MLUL. As I had previously stated in the positive criteria, we do advance multiple purposes of the MLUL, purposes of planning. So certainly I don't see any impairment on the zoning ordinance's you know, intent and purpose. So as it relates to the zone plan, we are of course in the EDO3 zone. This is obviously for commercial uses. Some of the purposes of that zone to expand the rateable base, to provide for a diverse mix of goods and services, and to minimize impacts on the adjacent residential development. I think we really hit all three. We are providing a popular use that's unique to Old Bridge, and that's it. If you want me to run through the waivers real quick, or has the board heard sufficient testimony on them?
I think does anybody need to hear anything else? I think they were covered pretty.
we addressed the waivers pretty extensively.
Thank you.
With that, we conclude our testimony, unless there's any questions from the board for Mr. Osceola or
Board have
questions
any
from the public. or-
Questions?
I have a couple.
Yes.
Some for our professionals, and one other in general. Concerns about the sign variance on 4 sides. We have 2 brand-new Walgreens in town, which only have 2 sides of signs on them. So I would be concerned that granting 4 sides would set some sort of precedent and create an issue within the town.
Well, any variance you grant stands on its own merit, so that and Ms. Carey, I'm sure will tell you that,
Right.
any variance granted by the board for this application doesn't bear on another. But that being said, the applicant does need to provide, you know, justification, which they have put on the record. Should up to the board, whether you feel that the side signs on all 4 sides are necessary for a building this type. It is unique in that it has really 3 exposures. I still not find them 4th exposure, but it has exposure on these sides. So you do want this kind of use to be seen. You do want people to get to it. And it's also a branding thing for them as well. The other sign variance, I will say, we note in our letter, actually is not, they don't require the variance for the size of the signs. Our ordinance with the EDO zone actually allows 144 square feet for the line. So you don't kind of need that variance for the area. The only sign variance really is the facade sign they need. I would tend to think that the 3 facades are needed. The 4th facade, I think, is kind of superfluous, but again, that also goes to the argument whether there's an actual detriment, other than the precedent issue that you're talking about, whether there's a detriment and it really is facing pretty large swaths of woods. I don't know that it's certifiable on purpose. That's basically what the applicant's trying to put on the record, that there's no substantial detriment because it's a commercial area, it's facing basically woods, and it doesn't add to the site pollution. When you start talking about variances for signs, you want to take a look at detriment, meaning, is it overbearing, is it adding to the sign pollution, is it, and things like that. I don't know that the facades are actually adding to the sign pollution.
Madam Chair, we would like to withdraw the 4th sign.
The sign facing the woods.
On the west side?
The applicant can agree to have 3 facade signs, if that
second question was traffic generation. I'm sure you've seen the studies and all, but seeing the traffic that's going to be going in there, as far as on Costco Drive and our Texas Road, what's the amount of cars that are going to be generated more than what we have now? Is there a number there that's been generated to see how many more cars are going to be going to Chick-fil-A and to Aldi? Just so it's on the record as we know how many cars are going to be generated. Because right now, I was on there today at around 4 o'clock trying to get into Old Bridge Shoppers. And, you know, you have backup. And the other question would be, is there any, and it's probably a no answer, synchronization between the Route 9, and that's a major intersection, and that particular light?
Yeah, regards to synchronization, that would be a negative. One's DOT jurisdictions, one's Middlesex County. So, I mean, that's pie in the sky.
I just wanted to ask, because I know I had the same problem up on 18 and Ferry Road.
I mean, I'll let Mr. Penke, he can get into a little bit more details, but the one thing, you know, from a, you know, because this is really located, you know, in the Costco and you have other retail, you are going to have people that are shopping at Costco, you know, going to the Chick-fil-A either before they shop or in the drive-through after they shop. So, I mean, you do have that internal characteristics, and Mr. Penke did take that into account, that you are going to have that. You know, the other thing you also have is, you know, fast food restaurants, primarily, you know, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A's, is, you know, people are already on the road. They're already on Route 9, they're already on Texas Road, and they kind of just stop in, get their lunch, and, you know, and they're back out. So you have that very high pass-by rate. You know, but you agree, there is going to be some new traffic generation. It is detailed in Mr. Penke's report. I don't want to steal his thunder. You know, it looks like, you know, in the afternoon, it's about 150 trips, you know, ballpark, you know, split it in half, 75 in, 75 out. Saturday, it's going to be a little bit higher because, one, Chick-fil-A is a little bit more intense on Saturday, and the Aldi, you know, people are out, you know, grocery shopping. That goes to about 250, so, you know, 125 in, 125 out. You know, people are going to be coming off the Route 9 access, because if you're on Route 9, I mean, you can do two different things. You can come off Route 9 and cut through the center, or you can just use, you know, the jug handle on the Texas Road. You know, it's going to be a 50-50, whatever you feel is more beneficial to you. You know, if you're going through the drive-through, you're probably going to hit Texas Road. If you want to park, you might just come through the, you know, Costco development. If you want a little bit more detail, maybe ask Mr. Penke if you prefer.
I just want to get a sense of
Okay.
the traffic generation by that. The last question was, given that it was addressed that Mr. Ida's property is across the way, where is the trash compactor? I know it was mentioned for Aldi's. Where is that located?
It's as far from Mr. Ida as possible.
All right, just want to make sure.
It is referring to A3. It's all the way up at the west end.
That's, oh, I'm sorry, for Aldi, they have a
That,
trash
no,
compactor.
that's for Chick-fil-A.
both?
All these, and again, we're coordinating with the Marlboro approval. Marlboro had us move this, and it's on this side now. So facing Mr. Ida's property is a wall, and it actually on A8, or not, A8. On A8, it shows that what's facing Mr. Ida is a wall. So it's on the other side of the wall.
Okay, thank you.
From Mr. Ida.
You know,
More questions?
I do have a question about the reconfiguration of the site. Now, obviously, we haven't seen that reconfigured site, so what does that do as far as your available parking for the Chick-fil-A? How many you know, this is a pretty, you know, a decent amount of parking that's available to Chick-fil-A. Obviously, relocating your loading zone to that side of the Aldi is going to eliminate quite a few of those parking spaces.
It actually stays the same. The building kind of rotates, if you will.
Oh, so the
So-
building changed too.
Yeah, so this whole area just rotates and goes up here, and this space ends up in this space. So you literally just take the,
You're saying that the narrower side is there, so you're able to slide things a little bit.
correct, it just rotates around.
I'll look forward to looking at that.
Any other questions? No. Okay, we're going to open to the public.
Robert F. Munoz again. First off, I got to put my Old Bridge bona fides on. I lived on Creighton Circle, and I graduated from Carpenter School. In the
Me
eighth grade,
too.
so- Sorry. I was glad to hear, on behalf of Mr. Ida, that Mr. Tykina is committed to when they're going to do the construction, because we've been working on getting the DEP approval, so we're happy with that. We don't have any objection to the application. We look forward to working with them on what is developed as a water problem, but hopefully we'll come up with a solution. One thing I would say, John, is at some point we're going to have an engineer look at it too. Maybe that they could work, the engineers can get together and work on that.
Love Crest Engineering, can't wait to work with them.
And my last item is, I'd like to ask, as a good neighbor, I'm not asking the American Plaza, but Chick-fil-A, if they would consider the possibility at some point of putting a fence in front of the area where the driveway is being eliminated, continuing a fence, not the fancy one, just to catch the papers that might be coming from Chick-fil-A as people are heading east on Texas Road. Not for the board to consider, because it would actually probably end up being outside your jurisdiction, but have Chick-fil-A consider that.
Are you responding to that?
No, we're not responding to that.
Hmm?
No, we're not responding to that.
No, you're not.
Apparently, it's outside of the Old Bridge area, so it's not something the board needs to
All right.
address.
Well, there's no other questions or comments from the public. We'll close the public portion. Anything else from the board? Want to highlight
Do you want to sum up your meeting?
or you
Yes, I
wanna
would.
sum up?
I would just like to thank the board. Is this on? Oh, I pushed it. I pushed the button. I didn't mean to. I'd like to thank the board for your time. I know this has been a long application, a long night for this site, so I want to say thank you. And just to sum up, this is an application that's very similar to the previously approved bank with regard to the variances. And we'd ask for your support and a vote of approval. Thank you.
So the board is looking at a motion regarding the application for preliminary and final site plan approval with the variances requested as listed in the environmental resolutions memo at page 3 and the waiver, at page 4, and the waivers at page 5, with the exception of the monument sign, which is not a waiver, a variance that's required. Their size is permitted for the monument sign. They have agreed to the following conditions: complying with the planning/engineering/traffic memo from environmental resolutions for everything except moving the 6 spaces toward that western edge. They will work with the Open Space Commission and Mr. Lavallo. They will move the hydrant as requested by Mr. Hart. They will provide the timing from the county on the signal. They will work with the township's professionals and address any conflicts between the Old Bridge and the Marlboro approvals and any changes by either of the counties. The board's going to retain jurisdiction on this application to deal with any of those issues that can't be addressed. Okay, so you can come back, so the professionals come back to us if there are things that are a real conflict, then we need to look at again.
We understand that. We do not expect that will be necessary.
Just as a note, the LD delivery area is to the north side, not where indicated on the plans we have. The applicant will move Mr. Ida's driveway before the winter, as per the prior approval, and a settlement that I don't believe the board was technically a part of. Applicant will add the missing ADA spaces. Deliveries will be at night after the close of business, since no loading zone is provided. That'll be a condition of your approval since there's no loading, okay?
Understood.
3 facade signs, not the 4, will be, are requested and are being approved. And you must comply with the stormwater requirements, including the 2-year storm, and you'll work with our professionals to figure that out.
Understood.
Okay.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Lauer.
Mr. Abbas?
Yes, with the conditions that was just mentioned.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes, with the conditions.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
No.
Mr. Luca? Yes. Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much, and again, I appreciate your time.
Want
have to
to
change,
rest?
you to change a court reporter, so I gotta take a 2-minute recess.
I thought our invitation would take that long.
Oh, okay, good.
I think it took longer
Okay.
tonight than it did the first time.
Okay, we have a 5-minute recess.